downgraded to severe thunderstorm in the Marathon County area. That sticks with us till 9:45. Typically, if we have a tornado warning for quite some time that doesn't show any reports of a tornado, we'll likely get a warning after that, which would be a severe thunderstorm warning. And that's the situation we're seeing right now. Still a chance of tornadic activity in northern Clark County, but we still don't have any reports of any funnel clouds, any tornadoes on the ground. So we're just making sure everybody's informed that there is strong storms, not necessarily a tornado on the ground, but the potential for one to form. So you can see that getting a little bit closer to Marathon County. It looks like the dark reds and oranges you can see within this storm system through the northern part of Clark County. And you can see Colby, the recent update, tornado warning just now issued for western Marathon County. So that is likely until 9:45 or so, considering the severe thunderstorm warning was until 9:45. In fact, it looks like 9:30 is that tornado warning. You can hear the tornado sirens right now going on. And we're seeing that strong thunderstorm continue to develop with a chance of tornadoes. I'm not sure, Justin, if you're seeing anything with that warning. Maybe some new news has popped up on why it's been continued?
No, not really. The National Weather Service in Green Bay said that they had previously seen debris signature with this storm system. I'm not certain how long ago that was. This storm has had a history all the way back into Eau Claire County. Started in Eau Claire County, then into Clark County, and now into Marathon County. So obviously there's enough there yet that enough rotation, enough indication that there could be a tornado that develops at any time. However, as I take a look at the warning details, it does still say radar indicated rotation, and that the storm is capable of producing a tornado. So you want to take shelter right away. That warning is in effect until 9:30 this evening, and that does include far northern Wood County, the Marshfield area, and then also into western Marathon County. And I don't think we have any camera views out there right now that are available. I think Jackson mentioned earlier, here we see pretty calm conditions in the town of Rome. And off the top of Granite Peak, still looks a little dark out there. But we'll probably start to see a little bit more storminess coming on in soon into Marathon County. Let's reset this view here for you and clear off the old information. And we'll take a look at that storm system once again, just to see again, just moving into the far western part of Marathon County. It's still occurring, the heaviest part of the storm in Clark County, but it is moving into western Marathon County. And here is what I mentioned the National Weather Service is looking at as far as the debris signature for that we look at for tornado detection, just in case there's something that really jumps out. And there is one spot now that you would say maybe there's a little bit of indication here in the area north of Loyal, as maybe a little spot where there's a little more concentration of the colors there. Usually it's almost a perfect circle sometimes when we see this tornado detection signature. So if this is moving to the east, it's going to get into western Marathon County, but it looks like it's kind of headed eastward, Unity area, or at least between Spencer and Unity on Highway 13. So in these areas, you definitely want to take shelter now as we have this new tornado warning in effect, and there is just a small indication of maybe a little bit of that developing here with our tornado signature. So that's something we definitely want to keep an eye on for a little while. So we'll go back to wind view as well. This one has not been showing a whole lot as we have been watching through the evening, but we are going to continue monitoring that. I'm checking a little information as well here on my phone just to see if any other reports have come on in, and I haven't seen anything yet. But we will go to back to our local storm reports, and we do have one wind report that has just popped up here in northern Clark County along Highway 29. Let's take a look at what we just received, a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust. So I did mention here that is the threshold for severe thunderstorm warning, 60-mile-per-hour winds, and that's we did see here in the Withee area along Highway 29 in Clark County. Now, I wouldn't doubt that other parts of Clark County are also seeing that high wind and the hail. And we have been looking at our hail detection here just a little bit. And also just want to mention again that we do have that severe thunderstorm warning in Price County. That one is in effect for a few more minutes as well. And we're going to move our little hail X-ray vision here, our little hail scope, and see that that is still the area with the largest hail potential right here in the northeastern part of Clark County. And then again, moving to the east, and it's probably going to get up toward the Colby and Dorchester areas. Large hail. I wouldn't doubt we'll see a couple of those reports as people maybe send in to the National Weather Service here. So right now, the is a tornado warning that is in effect for western Marathon County. It does include the entire county, the western part of the county, from north to south all the way down. I'll move it so you can see all the way down to the Marshfield area. So there's potential that the tornadic activity could develop anywhere in this line. However, again, we've been kind of monitoring this area that was northeast of Greenwood and more toward the Colby area. Earlier I mentioned Loyal, but that's a little farther south between Spencer and Greenwood. But now we had been seeing maybe a little highlight in our tornado detection here. The most recent scan, though, is looking a little bit less like that. Now, obviously, you're seeing the yellow colors here and the red. We've seen that we try and determine if we see a tornado. But if there was a tornado on the ground throwing debris up into the air, the radar would pick it up right away, and you'd see a bright spot right where the tornado is. But we're really not seeing that right now. So that's, again, pretty good news for this tornado warning, because now we've gone about an hour, maybe, or 45 minutes, Jackson, and we haven't seen any reports of a tornado yet on the ground. No one's reported a tornado. So that's one good thing about these storms that have been moving on into the area. So again, and we want to mention that, you know, there's a whole line of thunderstorms that are moving on in. But there does seem to be a diminishing trend with the severity. We aren't seeing any other warnings out in Minnesota or anywhere else expanding into the Northwoods. It's just this one intense cell that is near the Colby area right now. Generally, if you live along Highway 13, if you haven't decided to go into your safe spot, you definitely want to do that right now, as that strong thunderstorm with potential rotation is heading right along Highway 13 now. That's where the business end of this storm is, north of Spencer up to the Dorchester area. Let me point it out here. Obviously, you see it here, some lightning, but perhaps a little bit, you know, it was a little bit stronger looking about a half hour ago, and now it's starting to be a little more elongated, and we haven't been seeing that wind really develop that wind signature of a tornado, but it's certainly close enough, and the radar indicated rotation that you want to take it seriously. We never want to say, oh, there's not going to be a tornado, because sometimes they can just all of a sudden spin up real quick. You remember last summer we had a that were on the ground for just 5 minutes, you know, a few miles. Hit Colby, hit Unity, the kind of the same area that we're looking at right here. So they can happen rather quickly. So that's why the tornado is in effect, and you got to take it pretty seriously. I'm going to go back to Jackson now over at our weather wall to keep you informed here as we head through the next half hour or so with this tornado warning.
Yeah, I want to continue on this view right here. This is the leading edge of the storm. So this is right where the heaviest rain, the most frequent lightning, and the gustiest winds are right now moving through. So talking about Stetsonville, Dorchester, down through Colby, Unity, and eventually the Spencer area. Those who are just on the east, you're probably hearing that thunder. So areas like Athens, areas like Edgar, Stratford, you probably hear that storm, and that means that it's a good time to find somewhere secure. As we mentioned, not a guaranteed tornado, but there is at least a strong thunderstorm moving through, which can be dangerous to be outside. It's not one of this is not necessarily a storm system where you want to sit on the porch and watch as the storms roll in. You want to make sure you're somewhere where you can get to safety if a tornado spawns, especially considering it's getting pretty dark out there. The frequency frequent lightning is definitely lighting up the sky, but it's going to be hard to see if there is that funnel cloud, and that could potentially be the reason why we haven't got any reports. On top of that, though, we haven't seen much rotation, so while there is a chance of tornadic activity, it's probably just a chance at this time. The rotation hasn't been too strong, but the winds still very strong within this storm system. So areas like Athens, Edgar, Stratford, as we mentioned, that's is headed your way eventually towards Marathon City, Little Chicago. It does look like this storm is tracking a little bit northerly, but mainly off to the east. And it's a fairly quick mover. We've seen this move through a couple of counties here in just the past hour or so, moving about 45 miles per hour. At least has a history of moving about that quick. And on top of that, we're seeing multiple storms as well. I wonder if we can go zoom out a little bit more, talk about some of the other storms moving through the area. It's not just Clark County right now getting thunderstorms. You can see some frequent lightning down further south, some frequent lightning further north. Now, the signatures up to the north, not nearly strong. We're not seeing those brighter colors as much. So still have a chance for strong winds, hail, some heavy rain for sure, and lightning moving through the area. But it doesn't look like our chances of really damaging storms are, at least right now, forming in the Northwoods. Still, we have that tornado watch in effect until 2 a.m. So these storms will continue to move through, and there's a chance that watch could maybe expire as these storms start to die out. We're seeing a little weakening trend, but at least right now, they're showing the potential that they could be strong enough to stick with us for a little while. You can see we have that tornado warning still in Price County. I'm wondering if that's going to get moved along.
You mean thunderstorm warning?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it does look like that severe thunderstorm warning in Price County just expired, as I was mentioning, right at 9 o'clock, top of the hour. It does look like they got rid of that warning. The warning in Clark County also has been diminished. So it doesn't look like we have tornado warning in Clark County. That's likely because that storm system is just now breaking into the western side of Marathon County.
And that's a good thing that you pointed out there, that we just have the one warning now, which perhaps is a good sign that the whole line of thunderstorms is weakening. And we'll, of course, take a look here at the hail scope once again, because that will also give us a little idea of whether or not the storm is weakening. And here in Price County, that thunderstorm warning has been canceled, and we're going to move our little scope here. Let's take a look here, and there you see that it's not as bright of colors as we had just 10 minutes ago. Remember, you could see the lavender colors and the red color, the orange color in that line of thunderstorms. So that potentially another good sign that this thunderstorm is starting to weaken a little bit, that the potential for large hail is a little bit less now. But a lot of times these storms can weaken and then strengthen, and they kind of go through a cycle. So that's something that we'll continue to monitor here for the next few minutes. And like we mentioned, and like Jackson mentioned, we just have this one warning now that is in effect, and that's a good sign, I guess, for the evening. Hopefully that if this storm would happen to die down a little bit, then we might not see too many more warnings as we head through the evening hours, even though that tornado watch is in effect until 2 a.m. We'll continue to monitor these storms. They are moving into some very humid air, but like I mentioned earlier, it is a little cooler here in the central part of the area, Marathon County, Stevens Point area, farther east. We've had the clouds and the rain all day, so a lot of times these storms will come from an area where it has been very warm and humid. It was in the 70s, even some low 80s out in southern Minnesota earlier today, and it's only in the 60s here. So a lot of times as the sun sets and it cools down and we have already some cool air in place, these storms will move on in and then run into that cooler air, and they'll start to diminish. We can hope that that is the case here with this storm system. I'm hoping for everyone out there as well that we won't see any indication of any tornadic activity. But I'm going to take just another look at the wind view here, and we're going to clear that off and go over to our velocity view, what we call it, and see what it looks like here, because now we're going to start to see that being picked up by the National Weather Service out of Green Bay radar, which all of a sudden shows a different color. And to kind of explain that, here is the La Crosse view, and these storms are moving away from La Crosse, and the red winds mean that the wind is moving away from La Crosse. But once I move our radar view a little bit, now we're getting the radar out of Green Bay detecting this storm, and the winds are moving toward the radar, so they show up as green. So a lot of times we look for a spot where we might see a very bright green and a very bright red next to each other. We're not seeing that too much right now, although I'm going to circle the one area, maybe some of you can see it as well here, where, you know, there's a little bit of potential rotation with that storm system. That's kind of the track that the National Weather Service has been following as well out of Clark County. That was just north of Greenwood and now moving just north of the Stratford area. Now, it's not a real obvious what we call a wind couplet where you would see rotation. Not extremely obvious, but it does catch my attention a little bit there just to the north of Stratford. And that's probably what the National Weather Service is monitoring as well. That is moving to the east. So we're talking about, you know, between Stratford and Edgar there, I think in the Roselleville area maybe, and central western part of Marathon County. And those locations, that's of course where you're underneath the tornado warning. So far, again, we haven't seen any report of a tornado. We'll go back to our storm reports, and we're not seeing any new reports either of high wind or tornadoes or hail in Clark County. We just had that one report from just a little while ago, that high wind report, 60 miles per hour in the Withee area in northern Clark County. So that's the one storm report that we did get recently out of Clark County. We'll continue to monitor this as well as monitoring the storm that is moving on in. But as we saw in our hail view, we did see, it seems like there's a little sign of some weakening here. We'll track that storm once more here that is moving into the western part of Marathon County. We're going to clear off the screen here and do another storm track as these storms are moving about 40 miles per hour now to the east. And we'll zoom in a little bit here. And that storm is starting to, it really does look like it might be weakening just a little bit, so that's good news. If it does continue moving to the east, this line of storms at 40 miles per hour approximately, then it will eventually get into the Wausau area here at about 9:37. Now, I believe that tornado warning is in effect until 9:45, but the storm is already, it's a little bit after it's 9:05, and the storm is already getting close to the Edgar area. So any minute now, you're going to get more of that lightning and thunder, maybe some high wind gusts, and hopefully no tornado. That it looks like this storm is starting to weaken just a little bit. I'm going to go back to Jackson here. He can continue to keep you informed on some of the storm activity.
Yeah, I just did want to mention another thing we kind of look for these rotating storms, especially if it's on a line of thunderstorms, is a small notch in the thunderstorm signature, the storm signature that we're seeing. And that could be part of the reason why these updates have been coming in. As we mentioned earlier, we saw that a small chance of a couplet, or at least a weak rotation within the storm system, and that was just to the northwest of Stratford. Now, as we zoom in, you'll notice it's not a complete line as it tracks throughout Clark County. We are seeing a little bit of a wave, and the reason that the storms can kind of form a little wave like that, or we call it a notch, is in order for a very strong storm to develop, there has to be a lot of really strong winds going upwards, you know, bringing storm fuel in, and that's doesn't allow for rain to fall in that specific area. So what you end up seeing is a lot of rain surrounding the storm, and then where that updraft is coming, where the winds are really circulating and coming in, there's no rain falling, as that's where it's really bringing in that what we call storm food. So the storm can continue to feed and form. And you'll notice that that's not too far off of where we saw that rotation signature. So there is a chance that this could be at least a weak rotating storm, which can lead to a stronger storm in the future, and could be some indication of why that tornado warning is still in effect. You'll notice here, as we look at our wind velocity, we're still seeing that red and green popping up next to each other. Now, they're not exactly right next to each other, and it does look like they're not exactly right next to that notch either. But we are still seeing at least some general sense of rotation within this storm system, and that would be right now at least the small bit of circulating winds I'm seeing is just off to the east of Spencer. So that's not too far away from we saw that notch in the storm system, or area where there might be a strong updraft and no falling rainfall. And that would be in the Spencer area trafficking towards Stratford. Now, not a guarantee that there is a rotating system there, but at least some indication that it could be rotating, which could lead to strengthening storm or a funnel cloud formation. So we're keeping our eye on that system as well. If you do live in Stratford, north of Marshfield, definitely definitely want to be in a sturdy shelter as this moves through. It's probably going to be bringing some strong winds regardless of if a funnel cloud has developed or not. It looks like the strongest storm is definitely sitting in northern Clark County. So I'm not sure if Justin had anything to add on to that. You can see some mixing of red and green up to the north, but not quite too tight. So probably seeing a little bit of mixing winds within the system. There is a little bit of a mix nearby the Athens area as well. So it's not necessarily showing a really classic case of rotation. And that's why I want to kind of highlight a few spots in case that does happen to be a spot where there is a rotating system. So you can see nearby Athens, a little bit of that green, a brighter green, touching some of that red could show that the storm system has winds going one way and winds going another way, which eventually turns to a rotating system. And that would be headed mainly towards areas like Little Chicago in the northwestern corner of Marathon County, where that tornado warning is currently in effect. Let's see if there's any hail within any of those systems as well. We typically see hail pretty close to where that rotation would be. And you can see just south of Colby, we're seeing a little bit of brighter colors, but not quite as bright as earlier. So still a chance for some heavy rain and large hail to develop, probably not quite as large as some of the hail that might have fallen earlier. We haven't had too many storm reports, however, throughout this evening, so can't quite verify exactly what's falling at this time. But you can see here, just the north of Spencer, where we did see some rotation earlier, there is some brighter colors popping up on our hail scope, which would be where some large hail is developing, and it's just typically found within strong rotating storms and potential tornadic storms. So we're keeping our eye mainly here as our one warning now, as we mentioned, if you're just tuning in and you were watching earlier, the warning up in the Northwoods for Price County has expired. We still have a tornado watch across the area. The warnings in effect right now remain in western Marathon County. That's a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning in effect. And still, it's a radar indicated rotation with that tornado warning, at least at this time. So you can see here, we brought up our tornado watch again in the yellow for most of the area. We're under that watch until 2 a.m., which means severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings could continue to pop up for the next few hours. Our tornado warning here in western Marathon County is until 9:30. So we got about 20 more minutes for that warning. As we mentioned, we're seeing some weak rotation, not necessarily the most classic storm for a really solid rotating system. Good thing. That means that there likely couldn't be a tornado on the ground, but there is still some indication that this could be a rotating storm system. So that goes until 9:30. We're going to continue on air until that tornado warning has expired. So if it gets an update till 9:45, gets an update till 10 o'clock, we're going to stick with you all the way through 10 o'clock and into our 10 o'clock.
And then the National Weather Service also, just like we were mentioning earlier, we were looking at a couple little spots where it seemed there might be a little rotation in that storm. Same thing, the National Weather Service said they're watching the exact same spots like we just analyzed because those are the areas where maybe a weak tornado could develop. Maybe, it's one of those situations like I mentioned last time. We had several weak tornadoes that touched down for 5 minutes. They were on the ground for 5 miles and caused a lot of damage. You might remember in the Unity area in Colby, and we kind of got the same situation developing here in the same area. Now it's moving into Marathon County. Now, as we see here on our wide view, we can take a look at that. And you just don't see as many warnings out there or as many strong storms except for the one that we have here in Marathon County. So we are going to continue monitoring that particular storm. That's the one we're really kind of worried about right now. And it's close enough now that we're seeing some lightning here with one of our camera views. We'll go to our Jefferson Street Inn and Event Center camera downtown. Chris, maybe we can take a look at that now. Our camera view, not too close to the Wausau area yet, but we're expecting that in about 20 minutes. And he says, our director says, yeah, maybe we'll get that up here in just a little bit. Showing there, look at that, lighting up the sky here, some of those dark clouds off to the west. There had been a lot more lightning with this thunderstorm because it was more intense back in Eau Claire County and Clark County, but you can see it's starting to get closer to the Wausau area with a little bit of that lightning. We'll go back again to our wind view because that's what was showing us the potential for some of that thunderstorm, the rotation in some of these storms. But it's a situation here where we see a little bit of that rotation for a little while, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And then all of a sudden you might see a little rotation once again, and then it's gone. And right now it's not looking too suspicious as far as the wind view goes here, again, in parts of western Marathon County. You know, we kind of zoom in here and pan around a little bit with our Green Bay radar view, and it's I guess just to the east of Spencer, where we had seen a little bit of that, just a tiny bit of rotation. Same thing up around the Athens area, but now it looks a little bit less like that. So again, we continue to look for positive signs with these storms that are moving through, and we haven't seen too many reports of anybody reporting any funnel clouds or any damage from wind. Just that one report in northern Clark County. I'm looking at some of the more recent reports here. There was one only 34-mile-per-hour gust north of Marshfield. That was a measured wind gust by a storm spotter out there in western Marathon County. And that tornado warning does continue until 9:30, and it's our policy here to keep you informed of any tornado warnings until the warning expires. So even though we haven't had any tornado reports, any touchdowns, radar indicated at times, that's why we want to keep you informed here and make sure you stay safe here. It's our first severe weather event of the season. You might recall back in April, it was in April of 2010 or 2011 when we had the Merrill tornado. That was in April. It can happen, and we've had some of those strong storms moving on through the area, and we're going to continue to monitor that situation. We're going to take a look at our hail vision again here inside the storm, move that over the storm here, and it hasn't been as intense here as it was back in other parts of Clark County or in Eau Claire County. It was a lot brighter colors were showing up with the storm system, but it can kind of pulse stronger and then a little weaker and then a little stronger as it picks up some more moisture. But again, like I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit cooler over in the eastern half of the area because of all the clouds and rain we had. So it wouldn't surprise me if these storms continue moving off to the east and are a little bit less than severe, and maybe we wouldn't have to deal with more tornado warnings in the area. And we're really, I'm going to move this down a little bit farther south and west, and you can see none of that type of activity is occurring farther to the south and west. So again, that's pretty good news. A little bit of heavier downpours here in western parts of Jackson County, but again, obviously you can see at home there that the most intense storm is right over there in western Marathon County. But even in just the last radar sweep, you saw that sweep come by. Now we're just seeing the green there to the west of the Stratford area. So once again, it has seemingly weakened just a little bit. We'll move to some of those storms in the Northwoods as well. We'll take a little view a little bit farther north here and see if there's any larger hail with any of those storms. We've, folks in the Northwoods, you've been watching here for a little while, I'm sure, and wondering what's going on. And we've had some of those storms up in the north, but we just haven't seen as of intense activity. So not as much hail. You don't see the bright colors there with our radar scope looking inside these storms. We'll check the ones over in Forest County now. We did have a warning earlier in Forest and Florence County earlier in the evening, a couple of hours ago, but now these storms not quite as intense, and there are no warnings in effect. And that is what's striking here about our warning map. Let me go on the wide view. Is that I got a couple of warnings way back in Iowa, but other than that, no other warnings with that line of thunderstorms except for the tornado warning. And if you just tuned in, maybe you're out and about and you see lightning in the sky and you thought you turned on the TV, we're on the air here because we have a radar indicated rotation in the storms, a radar indicated tornado, or what they would say a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado here in western Marathon County. And that's why we do have that tornado watch in effect until 2 a.m. and we'll again check that warning. until 9:30 p.m. And that is only for about 13 more minutes. And we haven't seen any intensification of that storm system just recently. There's a lot of lightning. You know, a lot of you are looking off to the east or are looking off to the west here in the Wausau metro area, and you're seeing some of the lightning in the sky. Hopefully, as it does approach the city, it will continue to weaken, but it has shown some signs of strengthening and then weakening. And we're going to go back over to Jackson now for some additional information.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, of course, this storm system just off to the west of the Wausau area. So we do have a camera in the Wausau area, and our director, Chris, did say that that camera is able to be, it's ready to be popped on so we can see. And you'll notice right now, not seeing any lightning at this time. Off the background, there you go, some lightning popping up. You can see it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. It's dark enough now where if there was a funnel cloud, it would be a little bit hard to discern if it's not right at your doorstep. But once that lightning does fire up, you definitely notice a little bit more storm activity in the background there. And that's looking off to the west towards the storm, where we're definitely seeing frequent lightning, some heavier downpours and strong storms. Still keep an eye on the chance for rotation. Here's our wind velocity. We look at that for rotation. You can see nearby the Edgar area, there is a little bit of green and red mixing. It's not terribly defined, but it definitely could show maybe some weak rotation. Justin, I'm wondering if we could set this to move over the past half hour and look if that rotation has been changing much over the past half hour. Maybe sometimes you can tell it's spinning a little bit. If we can put that on the very slow, you can usually get a good view of what that looks like. And you can see we definitely have a mix of colors moving through the area. Right around the Edgar areas where we're seeing that main mix of green and red. We haven't had any updates that extend that warning past 9:30, so we're going to continue until the end of that warning. But if we do get to 9:30 and they don't issue another tornado warning, then we'll probably say it's not necessarily safe to go outside if you hear the thunder, but safe enough where you don't necessarily have to hunker down. Zooming into Little Chicago, or at least the nearby Little Chicago area, you can see a little bit of that green is starting to brighten up just a little bit, some red surrounding it as well. So we are looking at some potential weak rotation, which could definitely develop into a bit of a stronger storm. And you can see right here the brighter green right next to this notch of a little bit deeper red shows that there is probably some slight rotation within this storm system. It's hard to tell. It's not quite as bright as what we sometimes see with a really strong rotating system, but at least some indication that there could be some rotation just north of the Little Chicago area. And as we take a look at the radar view, you'll notice the storms look a little funky around that area as well. Not quite one large line of storms. Typically, that could mean that there is a rotating system, and Justin here is tracking that out off to the east. So if there is a strong storm, which we have a warning for right now, it's going to be heading over to the cities you see on the screen here. Maine, you don't have too much longer before that storm gets on your doorstep. We're talking about 9:30. That's in less than 10 minutes. For those in the Wausau area, you have a little bit more lead time, 9:35, but still, you want to make sure you're letting people know who you live nearby, your friends and family. Hey, there's a strong storm headed your way. Tornado warning in western Wisconsin. There's a lot of people, or western Marathon County, I might say. There's a lot of people who don't have a reliable way to get warnings, or they don't know of a reliable way to get warnings, and they want to make sure that you and your friends and family are safe, not just those tuning in here to 9 News.
Just circle that to let you know that you notice the tornado warning has been canceled there in northern Wood County.
Okay, yeah, so it's south of, or in northern Wood County. Earlier we had a little bit of this tornado warning dipping down in encompassing areas like Marshfield. You'll notice that that part of the tornado warning has now expired. So just for Marathon County is where we have our warnings right now. The severe thunderstorm warning still dips down into Marshfield. But the tornado warning, the potential for rotation, still sticking with us in Marathon County. That would be here over west of Wausau. So if you're in the Wausau area, you have some time, not too much, but some time to prepare. For those in the western side of the county, you're underneath that warning right now, and you want to make sure you head to your safe place. The good news is these storms are traveling pretty quick. There's not much behind them. So once the storm system moves through, you should be in a safe spot with the storms moving away from you. But for those in the western side of the county, as we mentioned, Athens, Edgar, Stratford, especially between Edgar and Stratford, we are seeing the potential for rotating storm right now that is going to continue to push off to the east. You'll notice this is our hail scope. So if you're tuned in earlier, we were looking at some really bright colors. Talk about pinks and reds. Right now we're seeing greens and blues, and that typically doesn't mean the largest of hail or the strongest of storms. And that's pretty consistent consistent throughout this storm system. Even though we are under a warning, we're not seeing too much indication of super heavy rain, high, large, bright colors, and large hail. In fact, some of the storms earlier this afternoon that didn't have a tornado warning on them had signatures showing much larger hail. So at least in terms of what we're seeing on radar right now, the chance for large hail is diminishing a bit, especially over the past couple of hours. But there is still that tornado warning. You want to make sure you're staying safe if you're in the area. Wondering if we could pop on the correlation coefficient. Justin knows what I'm talking about, to look into that storm system again. Earlier, we didn't see too much on this map. What we're looking at is for a really bright color. We do see something just to the northwest of Edgar. And you can see it's getting pretty bright, a lot different from the colors around it. What this is looking for, the tornado detection, is it's looking for things in the sky that don't look like everything else in the sky, which typically means debris. You know, you pick up something from the ground that's not supposed to be up in the sky, it's going to pop up with a little bit of a different color. So that would be, as you can see here, just to the south of Athens, northwest of Edgar, right on the highway divide there. I can't see it on the screen here. Justin, are you familiar with those two highways? Exactly.
Yeah, 97 and 29.
Okay.
There. Now, and obviously, sometimes you can get from high winds a little bit of air too, if we have some high winds or some other effects there. So the leading edge is in very, very weak, a little bit farther to the north and a little bit farther to the south. And in those areas, we're really not seeing anything. And there you see that little spot disappeared anyway. So sometimes the radar might pick up something, some anomalous, precipitation or some grapple in the air or something like that, perhaps that will brighten this tornado detection view out there. And radar scan came by all the time. So that's good news on that. But it's always good to check here to see, different areas. The area that we were watching with a little bit of weak rotation was a little bit farther to the north, up around, I'll circle it up around here, and we're not seeing anything super obvious there.
Great,
farther to the south here.
Marathon County
sometimes the lead here will have some high wind, and that is throwing up some dust into the western Marathon County, up into the air. And that tornado warning does indicate a little bit of debris there. 9:30, but nothing super obvious all evening. We've been looking at this and we're like, if there's a little rotation there, we will definitely want to let you know about it. We want to definitely be careful and make sure everyone's informed. But it's just not as bright or as strong depiction on the radar view as what we would normally see when there's a big tornado that's occurring. So that's not the situation we have this evening. All the way back from Eau Claire County into Clare County and now Marathon County, the storm has been showing rotation up in the clouds that the radar is detecting, but we haven't seen anything hit the ground as far as tornadoes go. And in our local storm reports here, we'll zoom in a little bit, and we're still not getting any large hail reports. I'm sure there has been some large hail. I'm sure Jackson would agree when we saw that in our hail scope, the really bright spot there in western Clark County. But the reports have just not come in yet to the Weather Service as far as the hail goes, or whether or not we're getting some high wind. We had that 160-mile-per-hour wind gust in the northern part of Clark County. I can kind of highlight that again for you. That was a little while ago, 8:23, and now it's after 9 o'clock. It's getting close to the end of our tornado warning here in Marathon County. We'll see if they're going to extend it, and I don't see any. I'm going to check some new messages here. Some hail was observed along Highway 29, it looks like, here in Marathon County, and looks like 34-mile-per-hour wind gust. The tornado warning from western Marathon County, they're saying they're going to allow it to expire at 9:30. So we're on our local storm reports, but we'll go back to our tornado warning here and reset our view just a little bit here and clear it up for you so you can get a good look at that tornado warning that is still in effect. And like we said, hey, we're going to stay in the air until this tornado warning has expired, which is just a couple of minutes now. And very good news that we have not seen this warning extended, and the severe thunderstorm warning now that was in effect for northern Wood County, that is canceled as well, like the tornado warning was canceled. So this tornado warning officially in effect for this storm moving through Marathon County is just in effect for a couple more minutes. And we see this storm. It still looks, pretty bright, pretty bad here on the radar view. It's going to continue moving to the east, affect Wausau and Mosinee and Hatley. We might see some brief high wind gusts or some hail with that. Before we go off the air here, we're going to check the hail once more, and I think Jackson would agree that doesn't look too bad there as far as the we're not seeing any real bright colors. It really does seem to be diminishing a little bit here with our inside look of that thunderstorm, where earlier you could tell there was a very strong core of that thunderstorm with the hail signature there. But that has certainly diminished quite a bit. So I think that's a good sign that that tornado warning is going to be allowed to expire. Jackson, why don't you take us out here? We'll take a look at that tornado watch one more time and the whole line of thunderstorms.
Yeah, so we're once again staying on air until the tornado warning expires. It is set to expire here in just 1 minute at 9:30. And if it does drop off, we're going to kind of recoup, get some more information, and potentially tune back in. In fact, take a look here. You can see tornado watch remains. That's until 2 a.m. So up for still a few hours from now, we're looking at a chance of tornadic development or severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warnings to be issued. But right now, it does look like the recent storms we've been tracking have been on a weakening trend. And if they continue to be on that pace for at least a couple minutes, so we'll likely see these warnings start to drop off. As Justin showed, not seeing those bright colors on the hail view, which means we're probably not seeing too large of hail. You can see some of the scattered heavier rain showers and thunderstorms here also breaking up a little bit. Now we're still seeing a line of heavier rain and thunder to the southwest, which could move into our Wood Portage, Adams, Juneau County area, but even then, we're not seeing really any severe thunderstorm warnings there either. So there's still a chance for pop-up warnings as we continue through the evening. Most recent updates show that one in Marathon County. Let's pop back to it now that we've moved to 9:30 and see if that is still in effect. As we mentioned, it doesn't look like the tornado warning is stuck with us. So it does look like they have enough confidence that there isn't at least a tornado signature at this time. Still a severe thunderstorm warning until 9:45. Now that means that there could be still a chance of a tornado, but right now it looks like the storm system has been weakening. Rotation not nearly as strong. So that warning continues until 9:45. And we're probably going to take a step back here, returning to your programming for at least the next half hour before News 9 at 10 begins, and kind of get our information updated for those latest viewers as we check into our nightly newscast. So make sure you're staying safe. Still have that watch and one warning in effect for Marathon County and for the surrounding area. But for now, we're going to return you back to your programming. Once again, thunder roars, head indoors. We'll be back at 10 o'clock.
Let's face it, it was unraveling those last few weeks.
People need to know. I'm going to tell them the truth.
No, you're not.
I'm the president. Really?
Uncle Billy's gone. This is real.
First Cal, then Billy.
So what are we going to do? Sit here and drink our feelings? Or we take her down?
The biggest secret.
9 News, Here's what's happening right now.
We're tracking severe thunderstorms moving across the area. We'll have the latest update on where they're headed and how long they'll stick around coming up.
Plus, a special weekend getaway for veterans and their families. How this yearly retreat is helping to strengthen family bonds. And an area organization is working hard to keep kids in rural areas fed. Why their latest backpack challenge is so important. Your News at 10 starts right now.
We've got you covered. This is 9 News at 10.
Well, severe weather across central Wisconsin right now. This is a live look at Wausau. We've had rounds of storms throughout the day and now into the night, including tornado warnings, watches, and reports of hail. Thanks for joining us. I'm Adam Rasmussen, joined right away by meteorologist Jackson Garlock. Jackson, a lot of that severe weather in Marathon and Clark counties tonight.
Yeah, we saw consistent tornado warnings issued across Clark County into Marathon County. We're on air covering that potential tornado threat throughout the area for a couple of hours. And thankfully, still no reports of a touched or confirmed tornado. But we definitely had some gusty winds, some large hail, and there was still the potential that a tornado did maybe touch down. Now, as we take a look at the current situation, this is our clouds from radar view. You'll notice a lot going on right now. Very frequent lightning, a long line of thunderstorms passing through the area. We also have a tornado watch in effect and a warning right now. Let's zoom in and look at those watches and warnings. You can see an extremely large severe thunderstorm warning in effect right now. That is right across that line as we move through the area. As I move out of the way, you can see we also have a tornado watch in effect. That's that brighter or lighter yellow you see on the screen here. That continues until about 2 a.m. and that's just a general chance of strong thunderstorms or tornadic storms that could develop. But it does seem like things are a little bit weaker than earlier. Still strong enough we could see severe thunderstorm activity. As we zoom in, you can see those warnings issued across the area right now. You can see a couple of cells showing some heavier rainfall and maybe some gusty winds and hail. As we zoom in, looks like our first one here is just off to the southwest of Antigo, right now moving through the Annawa and Burnham Wood area. That's going to be tracking over towards Phlox, Mattoon here shortly, and continuing throughout parts of Langlade County and further south. Also seeing a little bit of some heavier rain, maybe some lightning, thunder, and gusty winds headed towards the Bevent and eventually towards the Shantytown area. Not much in terms of hail potential, but we are maybe seeing some hail up to the northwest of Annawa where you see that brighter yellow. Earlier today, saw thunderstorm wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, hail up to a half-inch. Does look like looking south of Eau Claire. They did confirm one tornado in the area. We'll be looking at that and more coming up in our full forecast.
Thank you, Jackson. And reports of power outages are now starting to climb in several counties. More than 8,600 are without power in Vilas County right now. In Oneida County, that number sits just over 1,100 and 372 reports in Marathon County. Well, potential damage is always a big concern with storms like these as well, especially when those winds start to pick up. Austin Schindler joins us now live in Wausau with more on the current conditions out there. Hey, Austin.
Yeah, hey there, Adam. Yep, like you said, the winds were strong out there. The biggest we reported, or we were able to come to our station, was 60-mile-an-hour winds. That was out on the edge of Clark County near Medford. But that's the most we've seen so far. Sure, we've had a couple reports of hail throughout the area, but with this heavy rain that we've had both this morning and today and throughout the day, if you're going to be out and about and driving in this, make sure you watch out for these giant puddles that are going to form, because hydroplaning can be a big thing, especially with the amount of rain we've gotten just in this day today. Now,
but hopefully you understand potentially dangerous weather does take precedence. Both of those shows will be on the Paramount Plus app tomorrow. We're learning more about the 11 victims killed when a driver rammed his SUV into a crowd. The content within 48 hours of notification from a victim. The House passed the bill 409-2. The bill passed the Senate a few months ago. Every representative in Wisconsin voted yes. UW-Madison says as of Saturday, all 27 international students and alumni affected by visa terminations have been returned to active status. The reversals mean those affected are able to continue their studies or post-graduation training at the school. The students have been notified of the most recent changes to their records. In a statement on that update, Chancellor Jennifer Mnuchin says, quote, "This situation was deeply troubling, upended lives, and created both fear and harm. I want to personally thank the many members of our community, along with local, state, and federal officials."
Hines, Three Lakes, and Phelps school districts. The president, Perry Pockrant, talked with our news partners at WXPR Radio about their mission.
This year, we're putting up $20,000 to help try and raise another 20, which would combine fund about 80, I'm guessing about 80% of their program.
The church-run programs provide children with the equivalent of 2 supplemental meals to take home every Friday of the school year, with an approximate cost of more than $7 each to assemble. Tomorrow is President Trump's 100th day of his second term. New polling shows he has an approval rating of 39%.
It was a challenge for Schwab on public safety because of what was needed on top of their everyday tasks, but that didn't slow them down.
You put that all into perspective, we still had to do our day-to-day patrols here out in the village. We still had a service to provide. We did not lose a beat on any of that.
crews there helped with everything from the bar district to rescue squads to helping Green Bay police inside the draft. The draft also saw just 1 arrest and 8 ejections throughout the 3-day event. Mayor Genrich says the only unexpected part of the draft was how well attended Day 3 was. He hopes the NFL considers Green Bay to host more drafts in the future.
The warmer weather is not just bringing severe weather. Allergy season is also on the way. How to make sure you're not sneezing up a storm this summer. Speaking of storms, Mark, we've got a severe weather alert for us.
Yes, we do. This was just in just a few minutes ago. We do have a tornado warning right now for Langlade, Menominee, Oconto, and Shawano. Right now does not include the city limits of Anago, but it is close. So areas right now that we are most concerned about is in over towards Langlade and also to the east of Anawa. This area right here. See the circulation, and we're going to continue to stay on this so that the music they have there, please drop that. We're going to stay with this warning right now because this is a tornado warning right now. This is along Highway 47 as it works your way through Menominee County. This is Highway 64 to the south of the Anago area.
Even with all those numbers going against Trump, Americans still trust him more to handle the country's main problems than Democrats. Trump today reacting to those poll numbers, calling them fake and attacking the media. Perry Russom, ABC News, Washington.
A local food pantry is celebrating a very special milestone with their community. The Rhinelander Food Pantry held a fundraiser this weekend at the Pines Event Center. It was to raise money through raffles and auctions to celebrate their 20th anniversary. The food pantry is a nonprofit, and around 80% of their funding comes directly from their community. They say without them, they couldn't do what they do.
This has been a year of reflection for us, looking back over 20 years of really deep partnerships, incredibly strong friendships with local businesses and individuals. We love to get together with our supporters and our friends, share a good meal, and really keep our mind on creating food security in our community.
Food pantry leaders say they are beyond fortunate to have a community that cares about one another as much as Rhinelander does. Well, we want to bring in Jackson again now because we've had some new developments in some of this severe weather. So Jackson, we're going to send it back over to you. You can provide these updates for our viewers here.
Thank you very much, Adam. Now, recently we have seen a tornado warning has once again been issued across the area, so we're going to continue our weather coverage again for at least until this warning has come to a conclusion. You can see behind me this red box that has been issued. That is a tornado warning from parts of Shawano County, Langlade County, and Menominee County. As recent updates have shown some more rotation within this storm system. Earlier today, we were tracking a storm system moving through parts of Clark County and through Marathon County. Now, earlier before that, the storm system was over in the Eau Claire area, which now did have a confirmed tornado. So this specific storm system has a history of creating tornadoes, and you can see another tornado warning has been issued. So until 10:45 here, we are looking at that tornado warning in Langlade, Menominee, and Shawano County, and we're going to continue to track on that storm system. You can also see a severe thunderstorm warning. Let me click on that as well. That's underneath that tornado warning. That extends about 10:30. So we're watching both of those warnings right now. Of course, the main concern is the chance for tornadic activity. Now let's zoom forward. Here's a look at our current view. You can see on the screen here multiple thunderstorms popping up through the area. We're seeing a lot of flashes of lightning. We've seen reports today of trees down. We had one tree down in just southeast of Wausau. That tree fell on a power line, caused some damage there. So there's been gusty winds, hail, some damage throughout the area. And now that we have a tornado warning, we want to once again put our sights on that storm system right now, moving Shawano and Menominee County. So let's zoom on in, see what we can see on our radar view, and we'll pause that here. And you can see it looks like that storm system is just to the northwest of Menominee County. So southern Langlade County is where we're currently seeing that storm system. South of Neva, just the east of Anago is where we could be seeing that potential tornadic system. In fact, we want to take a look here at our velocity view or wind view, and that shows you where the winds are headed. We have green winds, the green and the red on the screen here. Green is winds going one way, red is winds going the other. So what that causes is the chance for rotation. You can see the green on the screen here is right next to this red signature, which could potentially mean that there is a tornado on the ground. Still unconfirmed. This is radar indicated rotation, but it looks like there is a bit of this system that is spinning and could potentially create a funnel cloud, maybe potentially a tornado. So you can see here, we're going to circle that view here, right just north of the Zor area, north of Highway 47. We're seeing this green right next to the red, and that is indicative of some rotation currently moving through the area. In fact, I'm going to continue to zoom in, see if we can pop up any other towns in the area that might be seeing this nearby. Looks like it's in more of a rural area, but northwestern part of the county as we move into parts of Menominee County. That's going to be just south of Elton, where we're seeing that potential rotation, southwest of the White Lake area, southeast of Polar. As we mentioned, that's just north of Highway 47, north of Neopit, north of Zor. We're seeing some potential rotation right now. I'm going to hop over to another view that we have and kind of see if we can see anything here. And you do see these brighter colors popping up. Now, that's not a guarantee of a tornado either, but we use this tornado detection view to show where we might be seeing some abnormalities. That would be where some debris is getting flown into the air, and that's when we see some brighter colors start to pop up. Now, you can't see anything too defined here, but you will notice some brighter colors starting to pop up, which could potentially mean that there is at least some debris floating around from maybe some strong winds or some tornadic type winds. The main concern here, once again, is that mixture of green and red that we're seeing across the area, and it does look fairly substantial for a mix of green and red. To put it in perspective, we have winds going one way with one of the colors. The green color would be winds going the other way, and that's going to be leading to, once again, that circulating motion and the potential for rotation. That's why we're looking for green and red. Green winds going one way towards the radar and winds going away on the other side. So that is likely where we're seeing the rotation right now. Not a guaranteed tornado, but if you're in the area and you're underneath that warning, you do want to head to your safe place right now north of Neopit there in northern and northwestern Menominee County. That's our highest chance of a rotating tornadic system. So we take a look here. This is our warning once again. You can see that's been issued across parts of northern and northwestern Shawano County, throughout parts of northern, northwestern Menominee County, and the southeastern corner of Langlade County. Currently looking at a tornado warning in effect until 10:45. And if you were tuned into our programming earlier, while we were watching this tornadic system, we were on air until that warning expired. So we will continue to be on air until this tornado warning does come to an end. And it looks like the earliest that will be around 10:45. So once again, if you're tuning in with us and you want to make sure you're staying safe, we will be continuing with us until the threat has subsided. Right now, once again, mainly northwestern Menominee County. In fact, let's go over to our track and see if we can track that storm system out for you guys. I'm going to zoom on in right where we're seeing that potential. And you'll notice here right in our storm track as well, kind of this weird signature of this storm. The little kinks in the line of storms could potentially be some strange inflow into this storm system, allowing for that rotation to build as well. We're going to take an overall line just to get a general view of where this storm system could be headed. Take it down towards the eastern side of the storm, pass it off to the east. These storms are moving about 30 to 35 miles per hour, so pretty quickly. And if you're in areas like White Lake, it's not going to be too long before that potential rotating system heads your way. So if you're in the White Lake area, head to your safe shelter. We're also seeing Boulder Lake around 10:31. I know a lot of the lake houses or places on the water don't necessarily have the most solid foundation, so you head into an interior part of your home from windows. If there is a strong rotating system, there will likely be some pretty sizable debris with that as well, which can easily be dangerous if you're outside. You really want to be hunkered down if you're within this area in case there is a tornado in the area. Once again, tornado warning in the region until about 10:45. Zooming out from that storm system, it doesn't look like we have too much in the area. We do have some stronger thunderstorms moving through central Wisconsin into the southwestern corner of the state, a long line of thunder. But right now, it looks like the rest of the area outside of these couple of warnings are currently sub-severe. So we're keeping an eye mainly on the strongest part of the system up in the northeastern corner of the state. That's parts of Forest and Florence County. You can see the warning almost extends up into Florence County. Parts of eastern Langlade County right now under that tornado warning and severe thunderstorm warning. And mainly the northern part of Menominee County is where we're currently seeing the highest chance of a very strong thunderstorm. Once again, we're continuing with this until the warning is over, so we are going to continue for the rest of the 10 o'clock newscast and past the 10 o'clock newscast if the warning does continue. Let's take another look at kind of what this storm system looks like, our squall track viewing the whole system. And you can see this line of thunderstorms continues across the area. Only 2 warnings in effect right now up to the northeast. The rest of the area also seeing some potentially gusty winds, maybe some hail development, and of course heavy rain and thunder. We've been seeing very frequent lightning. If you do hear thunder outside, especially for those areas underneath the warnings, it's not necessarily the greatest storm system to go outside and watch, as it could potentially be dangerous to be outside with how strong these storms have been. Let's kick back to our storm reports. Now, we haven't seen any reports of much in the past half hour for this severe thunderstorm warning. I'm not seeing much across Menominee County and Shawano County, but just off to the west, earlier this storm about hour ago, moved through the Marathon County area. Thunderstorm wind damage in Rothschild. That was that tree down that caught on fire, landed on a power line. So there has been some damage with this storm system. We also saw some wind gusts in the area. You can see that darker blue box here. Thunderstorm wind gusts in Marathon County in the Wausau downtown airport up to 51 miles per hour. That likely means a couple of spots could have picked up to 60, which would be a severe thunderstorm. And you can see some hail reports as well. Now, some of these are from earlier today. The one at 6:56 a couple of hours ago, that was up to 1 inch in diameter. And you definitely don't want to have anything too expensive out there with large hail like that moving through the area. You want your cars tucked inside, especially for those up underneath the warning right now. Let's take a look once again at our hail scope. Now, hail, not necessarily the biggest concern at
is to our east. So even towards Stevens Point, Wisconsin Rapids, you have a few storms there as well, some heavy downpours, but that's not considered severe. Stevens Point, Wisconsin Rapids, heading over into portions of Portage County, Wood County, and Juneau and Adams. So maybe some small hail, but the strongest part of this storm is clearly off to the east of Anago. Northern Shawano County, towards like say Burnham Wood, along Highway 52, if you're familiar, where you go from like Marathon County into like Shawano County and then back into Langlade County, that really small area there, that is not under the severe thunderstorm warning anymore. So the severe thunderstorm warning is for northern Shawano, does not include the city limits of Shawano by any means. But again, still got to keep your eye on that. With the strongest part of the storm, again, Langlade, Townsend, Mountain, and the eastern side of that. Yes, Dale?
Yeah, a guy, Carl, just sent us a message on Facebook. The area you're being specifically referring to as far as where the tornado could likely hit, he says that is the Phlox and Zor area.
Okay,
that's what that's referred to as.
Real small. Thank you. That is great information as well. There's also the town, a small town of Dottie, I believe how that's pronounced, but the mountain area, Highway 64, that's rural portions there. If you take Highway 64 through Polar and east, you go through a lot of the Nicolet National Forest there, a lot of that in those areas. And then you come to a small town of Langlade along Highway 55, and also very small communities here. But make sure, again, they are seeking shelter and they are covered. And also the town of Mountain, Highway 64, and you head south, maybe about 10 miles or so, 15 miles at most. It's probably about 10. And that's where the town of Mountain is. They should be in their safe place as well. So Langlade, Menominee, and Oconto until 10:45 tonight. That's the latest on their tornado warning. And I'll kind of zoom out, show you a couple more things here as well, and see if any more tornado watch boxes were allowed to be dropped. And no, I doubt they're going to continue until 2 a.m. for Wausau, Marshfield, and Stevens Point. But again, this is the area that we'll continue to watch. This is a radar loop over the last hour, and I'm going to zoom in and just kind of, walk you through some of these right now. Wausau area down towards Mosinee. This is just some heavy rain. Mosinee along Highway 53, also along Highway 29, and also Highway 52 turns Burnham Wood. That is all just some heavy rain. Now, as we get to other portions, and I don't know, something must have happened to our radar, that dropped out really quick. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, well, we'll still keep with it here because those storms aren't there right now. Okay, here we go. That helps. In terms of the storm chances, there we go. That's where they are. Okay, well, whatever. The tornado warning, again, that goes until 10:45 tonight for Langley, Menominee, and Oconto. This is Highway 45 or 47, 55, and it looks like here they're going to expand that that severe thunderstorm watch that would not include portions of north central Wisconsin. So Antigo in the clear. Burnham Wood here in the clear. Tigerton, Wausau areas all in the clear and to the west of I-39, Highway 51. And also, too, we have that severe thunderstorm warning that goes until also 10:45. But in terms of anything severe down towards Stevens Point is not considered severe in the Stevens Point area. Wisconsin Rapids, Pittsville, all this area here along Highway 66, Highway 73, Highway 80, and Highway 13 down towards Rome. So a few storms could be strong, but again, severe weather is not likely right now in those areas. That could change maybe in the next half an hour to an hour, but again, right now we do still have that tornado warning for Langlade, Menominee, and Oconto counties. Townsend, Mountain, north of Menominee, that Zor area, Dale, that's how that was pronounced, correct? Zor, you said? Yeah, Zor, that's how that's pronounced. Again, that's where that tornado warning
the
is.
Phlox and Zor area.
Yeah, Phlox and Zor area. So we'll put on the radar the velocity once again and show you where this is. So I still think the best circulation right now would be in far eastern portions of Langlade County and far northeastern portions of Menominee County. We're coming up on 10:25 on a late Monday night. So again, this will go for about another 20 minutes, and this is Langlade, Highway 55, Highway 64 right here, then this is Highway 45, and it looks like the tornado warning, they're getting it smaller and smaller, which is good news, and they just might have reissued it again until 10:45 this evening. This is radar indicated, which means it may not be on the ground, but at least showing you where that circulation is inside the clouds. So again, coming up on here, it's been nightfall for a couple hours, but you still need to treat these warnings carefully and still need to be in your safe place. Again, for northeastern portions of Menominee County, this is Highway 32, so the town of Breed, the town of Mountain, the town of Langlade, those communities right now, those are the ones that you're going to have to make sure that you're in your safe place. Antigo, Burnham Wood, Highway 45, and west, probably just some light to moderate rain, maybe some small hail. But the strongest part of this storm, again, still to our east, heading over towards Langlade, where we still have that tornado watch until 2 a.m. on your early Tuesday morning. I do anticipate a lot of these warnings, again, that tornado watch will be allowed to expire early on an active first alert weather day. This storm started off over in the Eau Claire area. We had a confirmed tornado in Cleghorn, then it moved across Clark County, and then it moved across Marathon County, weakened to a severe thunderstorm warning, and then strengthened again into a tornado warning about a half an hour, about 15 to 20 minutes ago. And we've been on air since giving you this coverage of this tornado warning in Langlade, Menominee, Oconto until Monday night at 10:45. We're coming up on 10:25. Is almost 10:25. What time is it? 10:20? 10. Okay, got it. So again, this is something that we will continue to watch here for the next few minutes to see if any more circulation, or again, if they decide to cancel that warning earlier, 10:27, excuse me. So we'll give it at least another 10 minutes or so until this warning is either allowed to expire or it ends early. So do have a few other reports to potentially pass along. Right now, still producing maybe some small hail, but overall not seeing too many reports. They did get a report of 3/4 of an inch of hail in Antigo at 10:03, and at 10:18 the National Weather Service trimmed back the shadow warning, and right now they're focusing upstream of White Lake. That was from the National Weather Service at 10:18. So tornado warning that will continue until 10:45 tonight, so about another 15 or so minutes. We'll continue to stay on the air for that to keep you up to date on this and looking for that circulation. And if there is that circulation, and it looks like now they have downstream issued a new severe thunderstorm watch up in portions of northern Oconto and northern Marinette. So that'd be out of our viewing area towards Stevenson, Athelstan area, Wasaki, and those communities, and not really really any communities here in north central Wisconsin. So right now, Langlade, Mountain, the town of Breed, off to the north of Menominee along Highway 55. That's where that tornado warning is. A lot of rural portions there, a lot of forest land around there towards the mountain area and along Highway 64 once you're off to the east of Anago. That's where some of that circulation could be. And right now, I was just trying to check to see the latest information on the new warnings that are coming in. And again, those are mainly severe thunderstorm warnings right now. So again, Dale, if you want to say a few words there before we go, I know the show is about to end here in a couple minutes. I'm going to stay on, but if you have any news information to pass along, now's the time.
Yeah. As Mark said, folks, we appreciate you watching. Mark is going to carry us through the end. A couple of headlines to keep an eye out for. You can head to WSAW.com or our News Channel 7 weather app for all of the day's headlines that we're not going to be able to bring you for the rest of this show. A couple of things of note, sports-wise. Damian Lillard has a torn Achilles tendon, so he'll be out. And also, Marshall native Dalton Varsho will make his season debut tomorrow with the Toronto Blue Jays. But again, head to WSAW.com and tune in to our News Channel 7 app for all of the day's headlines from that we've covered from earlier shows. But like you said, Mark is going to continue with this tornado warning coverage right now.
Yep, want to continue with that right now. And also, too, these areas that say tomorrow morning, say you have travel plans to the Anago area heading off to the east along Highway 64, there could be some tree branches down. There could be some limbs down. So again, giving you that first alert heads up tomorrow morning once we hit daylight hours, maybe to add a few extra minutes of travel time just in case you do encounter maybe a tree branch down, or maybe even a tree down in general. So just giving you that heads up. You can also see 1 to 2 inches of rain rather quickly in those areas. So northern Menominee County and far eastern portions of Langlade County. The city limits of Anago no longer under that severe thunderstorm warning or even a tornado warning. Highway 45 and west, you can continue along with your late evening into the morning hours. Just keep in mind that you're going to have to add that extra travel time just in case you do encounter things like even some low areas picking up, some minor flooding conditions or some ponding of water. Also want to give you a scope of everything else going on at this hour. Where there are any more warnings or watches or anything like that, there are no more warnings right now to the south of Stevens or to the south of the Wausau area. So Stevens Point area, Wisconsin Rapids, Findlay area, all this down here is just some moderate to heavy rain. Could see 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour, but nothing's considered severe at this hour from Stevens Point, Wisconsin Rapids, Findlay, heading down towards, say, Sparta and the Toma area and down towards La Crosse. Right now, the only tornado warning that we have would be the one for Langlade County, Menominee County, and Oconto County that runs until 10:45 this evening. So we're coming up on 10:31, so about another 14 minutes. Not getting too many reports right now, but it's something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on here. And also, too, some information to pass along at 10:29, 2 minutes ago, the tornado watch for Lincoln, Wood, and Marathon were all allowed to be dropped early. So Marathon County is no longer under a tornado watch. Wood County is no longer under a tornado watch, and neither is Jackson County or Clark County. So if you're staying up, watching the coverage, you can go to bed in those counties. Marathon County, Wood County, Clark County, as your severe weather threat is over for tonight. So as we come back on camera here at 10:32 on a first alert weather day, we'll zoom in a little bit more here and show you the radar loop over the last 2 hours or last hour, towards the mountain area. So just about ready to move into Mountain. So the town of Mountain, east of town of White Lake. Here's White Lake right here. This is Highway 64. So White Lake a little bit south of Highway 64. But the strongest part of this storm, again, is to basically Highway 55, which you see right here, into the north and east of there. These are the areas that, again, could have that tornado right now. But again, as Doppler radar indicated, I'm getting absolutely zero confirmation at this hour that it's on the ground. But it's something, again, that you have to take seriously across if you do live in those counties. Here's the reflectivity, and what we're looking for here is some kind of circle or some kind of couple. Yes, Dale, you have some more information?
No, I was just going to say, can you explain the storm fizzled out, right?
Yes,
right at 10 o'clock.
And then
how did it spur back up like that?
You know, that's the interesting part to pass along, because it really was winding down and then it picked up. It just found enough energy in those areas in eastern Oconto County. And sometimes what storms do, they can pulse up and pulse back down again, pulse up and pulse back down again, where I did not think, and neither did the National Weather Service, that we would think that they may pulse back up again, but they did. That's the thing about weather. Sometimes these storms can just pulse back up again, and you start seeing this rather tight couplet potentially between Highway 55 and Highway 32. Then they issued the tornado warning, and then we came right in on air as soon as they issued that tornado warning, where most of I-39 Highway 51, which would include the Wausau area, it was some heavy rain, wind gusts around maybe 45 to 50 miles per hour, and some small hail. But again, I can turn on the hail tracker to show you if there is any hail behind this, and there may not be much, but again, I'm going to put it on here to show you if there is any hail and how large that hail could be. And right now it is not picking up on any hail, so again, that is good news. But we are still going to continue on with the velocity, showing you the area would basically be mountain, just to the south of Mountain. So this is Langlade off the top of your screen, Langlade to Mountain to Maple Valley area and Highway 55. So just about ready to move out of Menominee County, and they may have already canceled, and I'll make sure that they do this before I say anything. They might have canceled already nope, they didn't. It's still there. Not much of it left, but they're still going to run it for the next, what is that, about 10 minutes or so. It's 10:34 right now, and it's going to run until 10:45. So just checking a few things. At 10:29, the tornado watch was canceled now. For tornado watch continues right now, for Shawano County, Oconto County, Wapaka, Marinette, Waushara, Menominee, and Portage, and that will go. But a tornado watch was canceled for Lincoln County, Wood County, and Marathon County. So again, coming up on 10:35 tonight, 10:30, we'll stay with you for a couple more minutes, as I'm not getting any reports of the storm being down, but just want to keep you up to date here for the next about minute or two that the mountain area, Langlade area, okay, they cut this way back now. That's great news. Right now, just a very small portion of Menominee County and Oconto County until 10:45 tonight. So again, this is Highway 64, this is Highway 32, so very close to moving its way into Oconto County. But right now, again, so about another 10 minutes or so with that tornado warning. So we'll continue to watch it here, and you'll see if we'll come back on again if we get some new information about this tornado warning, mainly, again, far northeastern parts of our viewing area. Now back to programming.
In central Wisconsin, there are a few spring essentials, and one you can't go without. News Channel 7's First Alert weather app, the earliest alerts, and video forecasts from local experts. It's the must-have accessory to get you ready for the elements. Download News Channel 7's free First Alert weather app, your essential spring weather tool. Sponsored by Sherrill Tire and Auto Service. Get your car done right. And Merrill Steel. Build a bigger future.
We now join this program in progress.
Please have a seat, everybody. Welcome one and all to The Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert.